A week has passed and I'm back down here for my syndicate. This time I've got 3 nights ahead of me. I cannot wait. I booked Monday off work previously in the year, ready for this to, this time of year is my favourite. It's spring, they're just starting to wake up. So I got down here after work, and I must admit I did really struggle trying to locate some fish. I haven't seen anything. I was walking around for 2-3 hours and I did not see a thing. Potentially a couple in a swim we call pike, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe my eyes were deceiving me. I've been in every car park, I've been in nearly every swim. I'm really indecisive today, I must admit. So I've ended up in swim 5, which is my favourite swim. It's in the middle of the lake. It's a really good starting point. A few anglers have turned up now, probably end up being like 10, 12 of us. So it's going to be a pretty busy weekend. So bang in the middle, once everyone starts leading out and all the rest of it, or wherever, hopefully the fish will come, whichever end they are, come past me at some point. I haven't put a lot of bait out. I haven't got out of the boat either. I've just put in a couple of spoms of just oily pellet and a few boilies sprinkled over the top. I'm fishing on this like a much shallower part, and the birds, they absolutely love it there. So I've kept it nice and dark. 2 rods out pretty tight with the pellet over it, and then the right hand rod I've whacked out a solid bag just a bit further right to a spot that I know the fish get on when they come through here. So hopefully I can have something. Like I say, it's this campaign's still on its early days, but I haven't had anything yet, not even a tench. I'm normally the tench master. In previous seasons is baited like, and that is how you catch the tench. They, lots of particle, lots of pellet, lots of boilie, and particularly like nut-based boilies or milk protein boilies or whatever. They absolutely love it. So this time I'm keeping things a little bit more stealthy, just enough to attract the carp that might be coming through and maybe nick a bite, and hopefully not attract a big pack of the tench or any of the birds. So yeah, that's me, and hopefully we can get amongst one. With all the rods set and the sun setting, it was time to kick back, relax, crack open the beer and enjoy this evening whilst watching the beautiful embers of the night's fire. Well, good morning. I must admit it's absolutely freezing this morning. This sort of northeasterly wind has really sort of picked up and it's blasting me in the face. It is starting to swing round more northerly as we speak. As I got up to look for fish this morning, it was just blasting me in my face. I had to go to my car and get my jacket because I was absolutely just blitz. It's just super, super cold. Doesn't feel like we're in April at the minute. I'm hearing that we're getting some really warm temperatures coming up, but at the moment it doesn't feel like it. It says on my phone 6 degrees, feels like 3 for the wind, so it's not that warm. But on the plus side, I did hear a fish last night. It was around I think around 10, 11ish, something like that, just as I was drifting off, and I'm not quite sure exactly where it was, but it was out in front of me going on towards sort of caravan in the opening of the channel, and that was the only thing I heard. I have had some liners this morning as well, some quite savage liners, to be honest. I was sort of filming them, and I'm pretty sure they're tench. It is looking good. The pressure has lowered, so hopefully one of us, me hopefully, will get a bite. Let's talk solid bag mix. I prefer to have pellet in my solid bag. Sometimes I crumble up a little bit of boilie, but I'm just going to show you how I prepare my solid bag mix. It's a really good tactic for this time of year when you're sort of following around fish as they're starting to wake up in the spring, and just whacking a solid bag out there. Obviously it's really good in weed as well. It's just a really good whack it anywhere rig, and I like to have a sort of mixture of pellet, all different sizes. Start off with this Coppins pellet, and then here, so what I've got here is our small multi-pellet, and there is many different types of pellets and different sizes in here, and I'll show you that in a sec in close, but that makes up most of the mix. Then I use our pellet booster oil. This is a really sort of fishy oil. and I like to coat this up, and it draws fish down from all the layers down onto your spot, and I let it soak in. What it also does is it adds longevity to the breakdown time of the pellet, so it's not instantly breaking down. It will stay as pellet for a lot longer, especially when it's been soaked in this stuff for a few weeks. So it's been an eventful day, to say the least, but unfortunately for the wrong reasons. There's no carp on my mat, otherwise you would have seen it. So what has happened? I woke up feeling a little bit despondent after getting lots of liners throughout the early morning. So I decided to give it till midday before reeling in to have a look elsewhere. By this point, the easterly wind had really started to pick up and it really didn't feel the want. Although I'd heard one the night before, I felt like this time of year there would be more opportunities and more fish located somewhere else. So I reeled in and went for a mooch looking for other opportunities. On my walk around, on the complete other end of the lake, on the bottom corner, off the back of the wind, it just looked mega. It was flat, calm, really, really warm. It felt like, I know when people say, oh, it felt like a different lake, this felt like a different country. I'd gone from wearing 2 hoodies and a jacket to now standing there with my t-shirt off. I potentially saw one cruising through, but I wasn't 100% sure, but it felt so good, and I felt like it was only a matter of time before the fish were going to be moving into this area. If they're not here now, then I'll set up as stealthily as possible, 2 pop-ups over the top of the weed, just a sprinkling of pellet. So that was 2 rod setup. I then, being off the wind and the water warming up and it being a shallow area, quite weedy but shallow, hopefully the fish would move on to me. Put a sneaky little rod in the margin in a shallow spot over some weed where I know they like to get in as the sun comes up. So that was me set for the night. I was feeling quite excited because it just felt so good, but unfortunately, once again, nothing had happened. I didn't hear or see a thing. Back to the drawing board. Right, let's talk about solid bag presentations. I'm just going to talk you through how I go about setting up mine. So let's start off with the rig itself. I tend to use very simple rigs in my solid bag. This is a 3-inch pop-up rig, little shot, wide gape hook, very, very simple stuff. I start off by popping the hook in the solid bag itself and piercing it through the bottom, making sure that it stays in place throughout the tie-in process. I then start filling the solid bag with our micro pellets. These ones have been oiled up, so they leave a nice stinky mess down at the bottom. I keep filling the bag the whole time, making sure it's compact and using the lead itself to press down on the pellet, making sure it's as compact as possible. Once you're happy with the amount of pellet that you've got in the bag, I then twist it round and tie it off, making sure it's tight with some PVA tape. Now the final steps are really just to neaten the whole thing up. So I start off by cutting off the excess PVA and then folding the bottom corners, making it as neat as possible so it'll fly through the air perfect. And there you go, your perfect solid bag presentation, solid as a rock. As you can see, I've moved again. I'm back around my original spot where I started off my session. The wind has now died down, the sun's back out, and it's looking really, really nice. And I was in here for a couple of hours, just sitting up the top, and I saw a fish show. I'm fairly certain it was the one we call chalk orange. Well, I'm 99% sure it came out right in front of me. I could see very clearly the black and orange colours. It's a very orangey coloured common, which I'd very dearly like to catch. It's a stunning little fish, right little character. Apparently they were slicking up over my original baited spot last night. So I've just whacked out 2 singles and a solid bag, and I'm really hopeful. Like I say, I wish I could start my session again. I've got tomorrow off work, so I booked it off especially just to fish this free nighter session, and I'm absolutely buzzing. This is the most confident I've felt in weeks. I've spent hours trying to find them. I've been running around here like mad. A few tench came out last night as well, which is good because the previous night not many tench had come out. I think that a lot of these frosts and this cold rain we've had has really kind of put a stop to the fish. It's kind of set them back a little bit, but now we've had a couple of days of warm sun, and this easterly wind that we've had is started to die down. It's absolutely looking mega. I'm buzzing. Can't wait to go into the 3rd night, and if not, then I'll be back again in a couple of weeks back at it. I can't wait to get my first one out of here. I'm really going for it and fishing hard, trying to fish as best as I can, and hopefully I'll get one of the originals. That'll be good this spring. I don't think an original's come out yet this year, so there's all that to play for. Unfortunately, my session has now come to the end. I must admit, I'm a little bit despondent and feel a bit gutted because there has been some fish in front of me. I've moved around a little bit. I made a mistake by moving on my second night. I should have stayed put, and I probably would have had, well, not probably, I would have had more of a chance because there was clearly fish in the area. So lesson learned, don't just move for the sake of it. And sort of sometimes you have to sit on your hands a little bit, and especially on a lower stocked water like this. So yeah, something I already know. I don't know why I did it. I just didn't feel right at the time. So I go with your gut feeling. You've got to do it, really. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But you just try and learn from it each time, note it down, and move on. Take what you've learned from each session. Keep building and building until finally you get that take. I've just packed down. It's just the rods to go. So I'll give it another 10 minutes and then I'll reel in. And I've been defeated once more. I've done 7 nights now. So still, like I say, still early on in this spring campaign. I did start in the colder weather. It was the last few weekends, or the last few sessions really, it's been freezing, but it started off pretty cold this one, but ended up pretty warm. So unfortunately I can't fish next weekend, and I have got a lot coming up in May, so I feel like all of this is a little bit wasted. You need to keep coming regular. I might be able to squeeze in a few overnighters, but this isn't really an overnighter water. You're not going to get too much completed in overnighters. I'm not saying that you can't catch them on quick overnighters, but it's definitely a session water. You've got to plug at it and sort of find them and move on them and set traps and all the rest of it. It's one of them ones. But at the moment, the fish, the ones that I'm seeing coming out, they're definitely cleaning their gills. They don't, and they're up in the layers, and unfortunately you can't fish digs on here. Otherwise I think I would have had a field day. But so that's just another thing that makes it a little bit more tricky. And it won't be long until hopefully they have a right old feed up before spawning, and we can bag a couple. That's the plan. I'm hoping to try and get sort of 20 nights on here before I move over to my sort of, I suppose it would be my summer campaign really, over in Reading. So I'll keep plugging away at this, and hopefully we'll get a few before then. My excitement is building and building per session. I'm sort of really hungry for a bite now. I've fished a few areas that I haven't fished before, sort of, found some spots, seen some things. Just sort of each time it's just unlocking another piece of the puzzle until it finally clicks in place and your rod's ripping off. I hope you've enjoyed watching me on this journey that I'm going through, and all the little tactics and tips and bits I've been doing to try and put carp on the bank. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the YouTube comments section, or drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and we'll get some conversation going and talk some carpy stuff. Well, it didn't take long and I'm back down at a lake. This time, not on my Syndicate, but at the urban silt pit, as we call it. I fished sort of last year, from summer to autumn. I did a little bit of time in here, and I'm just on here for a quick overnighter really. I wanted to get back down my Syndicate, but I finished work a lot later than what I expected, so I thought I'd come over here. I only live a couple of minutes away, 5 minutes max, and I've come down here for the night. There's about, I think there's about 4 or 5 of us on, but I'm the only one down on this end in the shallow part. It's got a nice easterly trickling through, but the sun has been blasted on the pads where I've put my rods. I haven't fished down here since I did have like sort of a couple of hours early winter, but the winds just picked up when we had all those storms, and I had to shoot off. What's even more exciting is I have seen a couple show a bit further back at the pads, but sort of as I feel like the light levels will drop and the birds stop mooching around, I feel like the carp will come forward. I've got trap sets in the little sort of lily bays as tight as I can get it without fishing dangerously. So I whacked out 3 solid bags into the spot. It's fishing nice and tidy. The rods went out perfect, and it's now sort of 6-7 o'clock as the light's starting to drop, and hopefully we can get a bite tonight. My ticket on here runs out in a couple of months, so I'll try and get the odd night in between my syndicate fishing, just for a few bites really. Oh, there's another one, the back of the lilies, about 40 yards away from my spot, but they're in the area. Haven't put any bait out as of yet. I've got a few boilies with me, some Escort 2, and they've been glugging up in our pellet oil, the serum, and a little bit of salt, just kind of glazing them up really. I try and cure them. They're nice and glugged. That's only half a kilo, so I've not got much, but I probably won't even put that out. I'll probably put 10 baits over each spot. Say there's a lot of flavour and punched into this. That's why I'm using a dark fish meal bait, to try and stop the birds getting on you. Yeah, really looking forward to the night. See what the night brings. It is going to drop. It's now 14 degrees, but it's going to drop to 2 degrees tonight, so it's going to be a cold one. However, I should be nice and warm in my sleeping bag. I'm going to whack the brolly up in a sec, get the kettle on, and let's start the night. I'm actually really buzzing for this. Hopefully we can get a bite. If not, I'll be back next week. I'll keep you updated in tight lines. Luck's starting to change, as I've just had one of the gems of the lake, one of the fullies, 21 pound 2, nailed on a solid bag rig. Absolutely buzzing with this one. Thanks to my mate Ollie, he's come down to help me film and take some photos of this, one of the special ones. It's an absolute beauty. I think there's an even bigger fully in here as well, so another one to go at, but what an absolute beauty. Proper fully that is. Let me show you the other side. There we go. 21 pound 2. What a good start to the season, eh? Let's get down Roach Pit and see if we can have one of the fullies out there. Absolutely buzzing. Let's get her back. Well, good morning. As you can see, I look pretty shattered because it's been absolutely carnage through the night. I've had 4 bites altogether. The 21 pound 30, which is one of the targets for me, so that's absolutely buzzing. I had that weird 16 pound ghost koi thing, and then 2 sort of low double jet black commons. So it's been an absolutely real good session. All of the fish have come to a solid bag rib, so you can imagine getting up in the middle of the night tying solid bags, it's pretty tiring. And inside it, just very simple, similar to the rig that you've seen earlier on this video, but except for with a pop-up, I was just using one of our Escort wafters. Like I say, it's a very shallow part of the lake, quite silty, and I've found that for me on here, more of the wafter snowman-y stuff does better for me. And although I was feeding oiled up Escort 2 over the top, I was just using one of these, one of our new 50mm Escort wafters. Really nice, balancing out my size 6 perfectly. And this is actually one of the rigs, so bear with me because the hook's burred over, because it was an absolute battle hook and hold stuff in the reeds here. So there's the rig, just very simple liner wafter rig, size 6. Wide gape style hook, sharpen right up. Obviously now the hook point is burred, as you can see. One of our wafters on the end in a solid bag. Well, this one's actually just under 3 inches. Banging. And that's what's very simple stuff. Because it's silty on here, the Escort really stands out. So I fed the Escort 2 and they were slicking up and boshing and feeding right over me. And then obviously these were just in the solid bag. Nice little sight bomb, as it being the lighter colour, with the only one being out there being that colour, and boom. It's worked, and hopefully in the next month or so I can get the big fully out. That would be amazing. And so thank you for watching. If you do have any questions on any of the things I've mentioned in this video, the grueling battle over at my syndicate, or whether it's on here in the urban silt pit, just let me know, and I hope you've enjoyed. Tight lines.